I'm Delbert. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Delbert.
There's only one in town that has more sobriety than I, and he comes from Canada, so I don't count him. You know, I've seen a lot of changes since I went to my first meeting in AA. We had 3 groups in town, and you could go to a Sunday morning meeting, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and Friday night. There's probably more people in this room tonight than there was in the whole town of Wichita back then. There's dang sure more women, because when I first come to this program, there were very few ladies in this program. However, there was one at my first meeting, and I always started my talk with my first meeting. It was my sponsor, myself, and 7 old fogies. Dear old Mary Eberhardt came up to me after about 8 or 9 years, and she said, "You know, Delbert, I was one of those old fogies that was at your meeting." And I said, "Damn, I was in worse shape than I thought I was when I went, because I didn't remember any women being there." You know, there wasn't any treatment centers when I come to this program. If you knew the right 2 guys in town, you could get in the county hospital for 1 week. And that was the extent of treatment as far as other than AA. I started out in the old downtown club. That's the longest flight of stairs I ever walked in my life. And I'd been going 3 or 4 months, and the old boy standing up to the coffee bar talking about the West Side group, and when he left, why, I asked one of the old timers there, I said, "Where is that West Side group? That's where I ought to be going." He said, "Never you mind where the West Side group is. This is where you come in. This is where you'll get sober." And I run down them stairs, and I caught the old boy just as he got down to Douglas Avenue. And I said, "Where is the West Side group?" And he told me. It was 218 East 19th Street North, barely on the west side. But they had a bunch of younger people, and I latched right onto that group. But I went to all of them. But that was my home group for a good many years. And there's not too many young people there tonight, but I was also the youngest in AA when I come in. There was nobody that attended AA that was younger than I. And I had an old man tell me he spilled more whiskey on his necktie than I drank. I said, "Well, you probably had an awful wet necktie." So, but I've outlived all my sponsors, so I use everybody for a sponsor. And I have a lot of them. You know, when I come to this program, I had 2 friends. Now I've got friends all over the world. And there's nothing on this earth like having a bunch of loyal friends. And that's what I have. And they all proved it a couple of weeks ago. And I have been in more contact with AA in the last 2 or 3 weeks than I have in the last 2 or 3 months. But I'm getting old, and I don't like to drive at night. And I have been feeding my cows, and that's interfered with my AA. But I'm sure you'll see more of me for a while anyway. I have been asked, do you still have to go to those meetings? And I said, no, I don't have to, but I want to. I have yet to attend a bad AA meeting. And I learn something every time I come. Maybe it's something that I knew once. You know, we used to have an old boy that got up and he said, and you don't hear this much anymore, this is a threefold disease. It's mental, physical, and spiritual. And if you want this program to be a success, you work on all 3 of those. You know, one of the circuit speakers said one time, the new people help the new people more than the old timers. And he said, if you don't believe me, I'll tell you the story. He said there was 2 of us with over 20 years and a new man that had 2 weeks called on a new guy. And so he said, you know, we told the guy we'd been sober 20 years, it worked like a charm. He asked the 3rd guy, I said, how long have you been sober? He said, 2 weeks. He said, how in the hell did you do it? And now you think about that a little bit. You know, no good alky would believe somebody that's been sober for 53 years. Now, I had my first drink before I started school. I was drunk probably before I was 10 years old, once. We had an old blacksmith down in the country I grew up in. He made good home brew. And my dad used to go down there and drink home brew with him. He kept his home brew down in the old garage that he had. And his son and I would go get a couple of bottles of beer for our dads when they got a drink. And of course, we'd always drink the top off of it before we took it back. And I was riding a horse, and I was about 2 blocks from home. Believe it or not, the town I was in had blocks in it, but only 2. So it wasn't very big. But anyway, I had to go a block north and back west to get home. And I was riding this little horse without a saddle. And I rode the horse just like I drank, fast and furious. And I got on him and kicked him out. We made it that first block real good, but when he turned the corner, I didn't. Needless to say, he beat me home. But, you know, I've seen a lot of people come in and analyze this program to death, and they died too. It's a simple program for complicated people. If it bothers you, don't do it. If it does bother you, you better get a hold of your sponsor and do a little talking, because there's a reason that it bothers you. Incidentally, that guy left me more than 30 minutes, didn't he? I don't know whether I can stand up 30 minutes. But I drink because I like to drink. And I still don't know which was the best, a drink of bourbon on a cold day or a cold beer on a hot day. But they was both good. If all it had was Scotch whiskey and Budweiser beer, I'd have never been an alcoholic, because I hated the taste of both of them. Drank Scotch twice, filled it up both times, and I wasn't drunk yet. Dave was talking about Southern Comfort. We discovered that group of boys that I run around with, and we drank too much of it. And I was down to my buddy's place the next day for Sunday dinner. And his mother was a wonderful cook, had fried chicken and all the trimmings. And I got by real good till she set out to dessert, and it was apricots. And I run out that door and lost all that chicken. And I never drank Southern Comfort again. But and he had 2 jobs. Hell, I had the same job 13 times in 9 years. And 3 of those was in AA. So I wasn't very regular. You know, I kind of backed into this program. My boss drank every day and every night. But like I told him one time, if I could sit in that air-conditioned office, I'd come to work every day like you do. But I got to work out in that old hot shop, and I get sick. But he knew a guy that he'd worked with at the Beach Aircraft that had been sober quite a while. Actually, it was 9 years that he'd been sober when he sponsored me. But anyway, he brought him out to my house, and he talked to me for about 3 hours. I didn't talk to him because it wasn't any of his damn business what I had done. And but I did listen, and I hadn't had a drink for probably a week. Maybe I should rephrase that and say I hadn't been drunk for probably a week. But I listened real good to what he told me, and he told me many things. If I were an alcoholic, I would probably do. And so I started watching. I didn't drink for a month. And this was in November, because I worked on an industrial street up north that everybody had a Christmas party. And my boss had told everybody on the block, don't give Delbert a drink because he's an alcoholic. And nobody did. And I went home, and my alcoholic brother-in-law called, and he had a habit of being mean, and it was on Christmas Eve, and I said, you know, I think I better go out to Andy's and keep him under control tonight. And on the way, I stopped, got a half pint, and probably drank half of it that night. But I did. I watched, and I done a lot of those things that man told me I probably would do if I hadn't already done them. And the last one was that I did was running drunk. I started out on Tuesday morning, and I didn't go home. And Thursday, we went to Arkansas City Thursday evening, and I slept most of the way down, and I think all the way back. Anyway, I got in my car and I headed for Texas. And I had an old 46 Studebaker that took $1 worth of gas and a gallon of oil every week. So I'm going through Wellington, and I decided I better fill it up. And I went into the service station it's about 4 o'clock in the morning, woke an old boy up. He come out and I said, fill her up. And he filled it up and he come in and I handed him my credit card. 13 cents worth of gas. So I'd undoubtedly filled it up the night before or sometime before. Oh, he was mad. But I kind of come to myself 7 miles from Oklahoma City. And I made a U-turn. Had an aunt lived in Burbank, and I drove over to Burbank and slept a couple hours in her driveway. Didn't bother to wake her up, and I don't know whether she ever knew I was there or not. But I come into Wichita, I was afraid to go home because sometimes I got mean too, and I didn't know whether I'd been there or not. So I finally called my brother-in-law, and he told me everything was all right. And I went home, and my wife had my clothes packed in, around, and on a cardboard box in the middle of the living room floor. And, you know, I kind of figured she was done that time. But I said, you got to let me stay because I'm too sick to go anyplace else. And I slept on the divan that night, a couple of more. Got up Monday, man, I tell you, I was sick. And used to be an old doctor out in Garden Plain, Doc Bierman was his name. I'd been to him a few times. I went out there and I said, Doc, I'm coming off of drunk, and man, I need something to help me. He said, I got just the thing. And he gave me a little bottle about that high of some kind of liquid. And I went home and I took a tablespoon of that, and I'm not kidding you, I could have walked upside down on that ceiling after I took that. When I finally come to my senses a little, I called my boss and I said, hey, have you still got that old boy's phone number? And he must have had it laying on his desk, because he immediately rattled it off to me, and I called him. And this was on Monday evening. He said, there's a meeting Tuesday night. I'll come get you and take you. And he did. And, I still got the suit I wore to that meeting hanging in the closet. Can't get into it. But I'm not going to throw it away. Somebody else can throw it away when I go, but I'm going to keep that, because every time I open that closet door to get my clothes out, I see that suit, and it reminds me of what I was and what I have become. Come a hell of a snow on Friday, and I didn't go to a meeting. And I went back Tuesday, and my sponsor met me at the door, and he said, where was you Friday night? And I said, it's too bad a night to be out. He said, did it ever stop you from going after another drink? I said, nope. Well, don't let it stop you from going to AA. And for many years, every time we got the first snow of the year, I found an AA meeting. See, I use everything and everybody to stay sober. There is no program anywhere near close to this program. You work these steps, you follow those traditions, ask for help, say thanks, and you got a pretty good chance of staying sober. I'm one of the few people that has not went out and drank since I went to my first AA meeting. And it's been a good and glorious life. I don't know why I got to live this long, but I'm grateful. I'm grateful every morning when I wake up. And I try my best to work this program in all areas of my life. Sometimes it gets a little hairy, and I get a little offbeat, but well, there's just nothing like this program. There's nothing like this group. I let an Al-Anon run me off from the west side, and I've been coming to the east side ever since. So but I occasionally go back over there, and most of the time I take my birthday over there, because it was the group that started me really on the road to recovery. I have been blessed with family. I lived 59 years, most of the time with one woman. A few times we were apart, but this time it's all over. But I'm gaining, and my feet is about to give out on me. So for the first time in my life, I'm going to quit talking before it's time. Thank you all for being here. Keep coming back. It works.